What's up, my dudes? Will El Hombre turn into the diesel, dog? That's what this video is all about here. So, Jason Anderson, if you guys have been following the real life Supercross in 2018, you'll understand there is some like striking similarities. Let me get my English right here, boys. Similarities between, the way Jason Anderson rode in 2018 as what we've seen in Dungey in the past. Whenever you start talking about the whole consistency side of things and being able to really like fully wrap up a championship and not really looking like crazy impressive any race during the season, and getting like a super low amount of actual race wins in a series, but still winning the championship. Like Ryan Dungey is like one of the kings of doing that. And that's really what we saw from Jason Anderson. But one big thing you got to understand is everybody rides different depending on what's on the line. And a lot of people seem to totally forget that. I guarantee you, if Eli Tomac was actually in a position to where he had something to lose, really, for like at least a couple races in a row, in these past two seasons, he would have been riding like a completely different Eli Tomac. But he really hasn't been to that stage. He's been able to just go balls to the wall, nothing to really lose. He gets these crazy points deficits because he'll ride too crazy at the beginning and crash, and then and his pants fall off. I saw one of you guys comment something. Tomac will do well in 2019 if he can just keep his pants up. Yeah, dog, for sure. That cracked me up when that happened last year. But that's kind of crazy that you can wreck so hard just blow your pants off. Like, good God, dog. That's insane. But yeah, so with Tomac, it seems like just about every race he's rode in Supercross wise the last 2 years, it's been like nothing to really lose. It seems like there's no way he could catch back up to win the title. So it's almost like he's racing with zero sort of trying to actually restrict his speed or trying to be conservative with it or anything like that. So you see a lot of different riders, how they actually protect the points lead in the championship and that whole thing. But I think Jason Anderson certainly would have got more wins had he not, had the points lead for so long in the series, especially it's his first Supercross championship and all that. You're just trying to get the championship, man. Ain't nothing else matters in that moment. So I certainly think with Jason Anderson, that's the way that happened there. And obviously, you guys know that Anderson has been right there at the Baker's factory, right there where Dungey was. And he actually had been getting some tips from Dungey there, like right before Dungey retired, and I'm sure Dungey is probably still somewhat giving him some tips here and there, just simply because Husqvarna is so close to KTM and all that. And with the whole Baker's factory thing, he's getting a lot of direct, like, how to hold together a championship type of advice from Dungey. So it's interesting how you see somebody like Anderson, which is I would call him more of a loose, the shirt tail hanging out the back. Dude's a little more like loose with it. You see Anderson hitting some crazy quads on some tracks, almost like Stewart style riding. But then all of a sudden in 2018 Supercross, it's like he totally flipped a switch, like turned the Dungey mode on and then won the championship. It's wild, dude. But like if Tomac wouldn't have had those wrecks at the beginning and missed races, and Musquin wouldn't have had those wrecks at the beginning and missed races, they probably would have won the championship. But it's funny how you always say, if they wouldn't have done that, then this other person would have won, but that's not how it happens. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of times it comes down to just that one race one of those dudes misses or whatever. It's all about not fully missing any race. You know what I'm saying? That's really the most important aspect to it all. And, I mean, back in the day, like Villopoto, that's what was so crazy about him is he had that craziness style riding, super quick in the corners like Stewart, Tomac style to him, but he also had that being able to pull the whole championship and consistency and control the points like a Dungey type of rider. He had both of those things combined. So, but this whole video is about, Anderson turning into more of a Dungey style rider. And it's funny because you see a lot of people out there, it's like they don't think you're anything at motocross if you're like a consistency rider. They look at the fastest guy out there. That's always what everybody loves to look at as the best guy. You know, they love to look at Tomac like he's just so amazing because he's got a couple of these races where he's won by humongous margins and he's always looking wicked on the track, fast speed-wise. And that's why everybody praises Tomac, but then people look at Anderson like he's a nobody, like he's nothing. Even to this day, people look at Anderson like he's a nobody, and it cracks me up because it's like, what is it about? Are we trying to win championships here, or are we trying to get fast lap times? Like, I'm confused, you know? It's just funny how I guarantee you 90% of people out there will look at Tomac like he's mountains above better than Anderson, but Anderson's got a Supercross title and Tomac doesn't in the 450 class. You see what I'm saying? So it's crazy how people look at motocross like that. It's like they almost care more about who was the fastest lap time guy and who won that one particular, who got the most race wins, more so than they care about the championship. It's really bizarre. I mean, obviously the race wins and stuff are cool, but you know, for like stats wise and stuff like that. But I mean, good God, man, it's like, the championships is what really makes you somebody in the long run. You know, that's what really matters. And all Tomac is doing is losing time. You know, all he's doing is getting older and older and older, and it's making it harder and harder and harder for him to be that, like, you know, 5-6 Supercross championship in the 450 class kind of guy. So if Tomac don't start pulling it together and getting more like that consistency style rider, he ain't never going to do it. They just ain't never going to do it. And I like Tomac. Ain't got nothing against the guy. It's silly how some people look at, in motocross in particular, they will look at, like, speed and race wins almost being more of an attribute and a achievement than titles and actual championships. Because most people that win a championship, at some point, they have to start controlling those points. You know, you don't just want to run out there when you got a points lead and ride like an idiot and wreck and lose it all. So people change the way they ride. And see, to me, Tomac nowadays is very reminiscent to how Villopoto rode, but he just hasn't figured out the whole like being able to flip that switch off. You know, flip it back down to more of a consistency riding style and really pull together a whole Supercross championship. That's what Tomac has struggled with. But when you compare like the speed and the wickedness coming out of the corners, he's very, very similar to how Villopoto was. I mean, even it's bizarre how similar, like, nowadays Tomac, the way he rides, it is like freaky weird how similar that is to the 2011 through 14 Villopoto. You know, the way where he'll steer with the back wheel coming out of corners and look like he's on a literal rocket ship sometimes, like exactly how Villopoto did back in the day. It's weird. It's almost like Tomac somehow took Villopoto's exact bike that he had and set up and everything and got a ton of advice from Villopoto on how to ride all of a sudden, and that's how you've got your modern-day Tomac. I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, it's just weird when you get two riders that look that similar on the same bike brand right after one another, and they look that similar in their riding style and everything. But yeah, man, either way, I think it's cool to come in here and talk about some of the real life racing and stuff. And obviously we got the new Supercross season coming really soon, and it'll be cool to see what all actually ends up happening there. But I think, oh god, some of these corners are a little tighter than I'm used to. But yeah, basically I'm going to be going in there. Obviously I'll watch all of the real life pros Supercross races, and I try to watch all the outdoor national races. But I'll be going in there making some real life like videos on some cool stuff that happens, and almost recappy style videos, or when something crazy big news happens, like when Osborne hit Savachi for the championship, and all the little drama stuff that happens between Reed and Dungey and Tomac and Muscan. I think it's fun to come in there and talk about those real-life racing stuff that happens. So it's definitely something I'm wanting to focus on in 2019, and I'll be watching every race like hardcore and really focusing on what happens in it and going in there and talking about it afterwards. So it'd be cool to kind of follow the championship series in real life, you know, the pro racing series a little bit closer. And obviously you guys know I'm racing pro MX Simulator Supercross for this 2019 season, and I'm also going to be racing outdoors as well. I'm never going to miss a race on that, so it'll be a lot of fun doing that as well. And because it's the same tracks that they're riding on in real life. So, but either way, I just think it's certainly an interesting way to look at it. and certainly an interesting type of video to come in here and make. The whole, like, is Anderson going to turn into the next Dungey? You know, because, like, back in the day in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, you had Villopoto, you had Stewart, you had Dungey, and then you kind of had Reed there and some other little random dudes like Barsha at one point and some other dudes here and there. Obviously, I don't know if I said Reed, but Reed was in there, you know, here and there. But it's funny because it's like you had Dungey, which is super consistent, man. Then you had Stewart, which is super inconsistent, man, but super fast. And then you had Villopoto, which was like the perfect in-the-middle sandwich. And I don't really see that on any riders nowadays. I don't really see that perfect balance between speed and consistency. It's either like they'll have a crap load of speed, a.k.a. Tomac, Roxon, and then they'll have a lot of mistakes, a lot of wrecks, or they'll be a lot slower, not nowhere near the amount of race wins, but then they'll be able to pull together the championship just simply because of showing up at the races every weekend. And the other fast riders just simply don't do that because they miss races because they wreck and crash and hurt something. So that's kind of where your Anderson's at right now. So it'll be interesting if Anderson turns into more of a Villopoto where he gets all of his speed back, gets that kind of more wicked speed, but still keeps that consistency championship type of rider style to him, or if he just stays in that consistency Dungey mode. Because when you're in that super consistency Dungey mode, it only works in certain occasions. It only works for so long because, but it does work, you know. And it's funny that works at times, but it does. But like, if Villopoto would have never have been there in 11 through 14, Dungey would have won so many more Supercross championships. You know, it's all because you had somebody like Villopoto, which was not only super wicked like a Stewart, but also had the consistency side of it. And I know Villopoto certainly lacks some consistency. I mean, you guys know the years, the crazy stuff that happened to him in 10. I mean, good God, and then 11. But it's hard to explain it. But like, I know Villopoto had his wrecks and his crazy stuff, but he just had the championship. The champion. He rode like a champion. You know, like he just knew what it took to get the championship. No matter what happened, he was able to pull it together 4 years in a row. I don't care what they say. If you can do it 4 years in a row, you know what the hell you're doing as far as winning championships. And that's really what it's all about at the end of the day, right? So, I mean, and who knows, maybe Tomac will kind of learn how to flip that switch off and be wicked at the beginning of the races and then if he pulls a lead, not have to try to win the race by 30 seconds or something crazy and then end up wrecking. It's wild with motocross and supercross because all it takes is one little slip, and it happens so freaking fast that a lot of times you can't even tell that it's going to happen. And I know that from riding in real life. It just, especially at third level, I mean, good Lord, man, a wreck would happen before you could even blink your eyes. And so it's so hard to try to control that. But, you know, and when you do that, the human body is just so fragile that it's so easy to just have one little mishap and then, boom, you break your wrist. Or one little thing go wrong and, boom, you tore your ACL. You know, it's just so easy for that to happen. So it's those people that never hit the dirt, you know, they never do that really seem to usually come out more on top. Unless you got somebody more like a Villopoto that's magically got both attributes of not only the speed but also the consistency side, which is like super rare. A lot of times you never see, a lot of times a rider will have more of one than the other, right? They'll never have that perfect balance. But Villopoto is one of the only riders I've ever seen that has both the speed and the consistency ability to win championships to the absolute maximum. You know, I mean, it was just crazy how he did that. And then had some little weird things happen to him and stuff. But we'll just have to wait and see. So either way, I don't know if Anderson will be the next Dungey or if, you know, Muscan will become the next Dungey or how all that's going to work up. And then we obviously got Osborne, Plessinger, all those dudes coming in, Savacci. I mean, it's wild out here, dude. It's going to be a nice season in 2019 Supercross because a lot of those young bucks are pretty wicked dudes on bikes. Like, I'd say Osborne and Plessinger are one of the pretty fast dudes. You know, sometimes in the 250 class, the guys either they're kind of like timid or they're more like, you know, fast dudes on the track. I mean, the past few years, I would say Osborne and Plessinger are some of the fastest dudes that have been on the track on a 250. for sure. I mean, I really, really like the way those two dudes ride, and so it's cool to see them both coming in 2019 season at the same time. But either way, let me know down below in the comments what you guys think on Anderson turning into Dungey. I don't know if it's really going to happen like that, but that's certainly what it looked like for 2018 Supercross, and he pulled together the championship. So now it's him trying to get two, but like, when are people going to start believing that Anderson is the real deal? Because that, I guarantee you, like I said, people probably don't even look at him as being all that great right now. People look at Anderson just kind of as he's like this, he's not super, super fast. You know, I guess they don't start realizing how good you are until you start getting 2, 3 Supercross championships in a row. You know, that's when they really start realizing, oh, this guy's no joke. You know, but I think with the first championship, it's all kind of different for them because they're just trying to get that first title. But so you may see a totally different Anderson in 2019, even if he does have the points lead, because he's a little bit more matured on that side of it. But either way, we'll have to wait and see. I'll be covering it all. So peace out, bros. Appreciate you.